And good morning, everyone. Great to see you back in the room and online. What a fantastic day we had yesterday. But in my mind, the best is yet to come. So, welcome back. And we open today with a very exciting session, a real game changer when it comes to vehicle logistics. And when we speak to industry, we speak with our audience about vehicle logistics, it's fair to say the responses are mixed when we ask, how advanced is the sector? Comments like stuck in the Stone Age or room for improvement on the technology front come to the fore. But here today to change this perception and showcase some real innovations, we have three game-changing innovators in this field. With the latest technology that's really going to revolutionize the sector tomorrow, but also today. So vehicle logistics, not in the Stone Age, now in the tech age. I'd like to invite my first guest up. So we're going to run through a couple of presentations, and then we'll get into a little bit of discussion as well. So plenty of opportunities for questions and delving a little bit deeper. My first guest, I'd like to welcome up Bazaz, Director of Business Development at Seoul Robotics. Please welcome to the stage. Hamad, I'm going to let your technology do the talking, so over to you.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to be the first speaker for the day, and look forward to sharing a little bit about what we're doing at Seoul Robotics and how it relates to automotive logistics. So I'll start off by just giving a short overview of our company, and then I'll dive into the specific technology that we've developed. So Seoul Robotics is, as you may have guessed, is a tech startup based out of Seoul, South Korea. We are specialists in 3D computer vision. What does that mean? Well, effectively, we take data from 3D sensors, whether it's stereo camera, LiDAR. We calibrate and fuse the data to make environmental models like what you see here. And that can be used for a variety of different applications. It can be used for smart cities, security, retail monitoring, crowd control, and autonomous driving, which is what's depicted here. And what we do with that data is we detect, classify, and track objects. And those can be anything from people, cars, pedestrians, bikes, whatever the case may be. And that's reflected here. The cars are shown in red, the people in green, and the bikes in yellow. And I'll show exactly what we're doing with that here in a moment. So we thought, okay, we could apply this technology to a pain point that exists in the finished vehicle logistics sector. Specifically, today, this is actually a clip from the Tesla Gigafactory in Shanghai. And in spite of Tesla having full self-driving capability or supposed full self-driving capability, they still use manual drivers off the assembly line to take their vehicles and move it from parking lot to parking lot through test tracks and onto the car carriers. There's no autonomous driving here. You see it in the clip. And so a typical production facility, a typical OEM production facility that manufactures, let's say, 300,000 cars per year, will have literally an army. I'm sure most of the audience here will know, will have literally an army of drivers whose sole job is to drive vehicles around. 200 to 300 people for a typical plant. And what we thought is, okay, can we apply our technology to change this? Is there something that can be automated? And in fact, that's exactly what we've done. And I'll share a short video to give an overview, and then I'll articulate it a little bit more. Can we cue up the video? Do I need to?
Hello, we're Seoul Robotics. Seoul Robotics is building game-changing technology to bring autonomy to first and last mile logistics. Our solution, the Level 5 Control Tower, can automate thousands of vehicles with only a few sensors. It's called Autonomy through Infrastructure, and it's the first of its kind. Autonomy through Infrastructure is an alternative to having sensors, computers, and software all installed on board autonomous vehicles. Instead, perception, planning, and control are enabled by smart infrastructure through the cloud and V2X technology. The result is that non-autonomous vehicles can be driven autonomously, as long as they're connected to the level 5 control tower grid. Seoul Robotics is the most advanced, most innovative, and most accurate robotics perception company in the industry. If you want to automate your parking logistics, Seoul Robotics will provide full-stack autonomy through infrastructure, the level 5 control tower.
So there's quite a bit of content there packed in a short video, but I'll try to break down the highlights. Effectively, as the video said, we take non-autonomous vehicles that have no special hardware, that are coming off of the assembly line today. This is not a futuristic concept. Cars that are coming off the assembly line today, and allow them to drive autonomously within private grounds. How do we do that? Effectively, first thing we do is we install sensors at the perimeter of a facility, and those can be on existing infrastructure like light poles, fences, buildings, whatever the case may be. And those sensors act as the eyes and ears on the ground so that we can detect any objects within a facility. Those can be people, cars, tools, whatever the case may be. And then we determine what is the safest path for a vehicle to go from point A to point B. So it comes off the assembly line, it needs to be parked in one lot and then moved to, one vehicle needs to go to a car carrier, another one to a train, another one to a ship. And we can automate that process. And lastly, we beam a command to the vehicle to tell it to turn right, turn left, go straight. Now, of course, it's a little bit more complicated than that, and we can talk through the details offline, but this gives you a concept of how it works. And as I said, this is something that we're doing today. We've commercialized the technology. We've rolled it out with a German auto OEM, and we've done the first plant, and we're now in the process of rolling it out to their plants globally. As you can imagine, the implications are huge. From an efficiency point of view, if you can take your labor force of manual drivers that were driving 200 to 300 people that were driving vehicles and cut that down to 20 to 30 people just to oversee the system rather than actually physically driving the vehicles, that's a huge cost savings. Needless to say, you can operate it 24/7 rather than relying on shifts to go from 8 to 5, 5 to midnight. So yeah, it's quite exciting, and I look forward to hearing your questions and sharing more about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ahmed. That's great, and we'll certainly delve into some of that a little bit more on that side. Let's switch to a new technology. Now, sustainability, decarbonization of the supply chain was a constant theme throughout the conversations yesterday. So I'd like to invite my next guest onto the stage, who's going to talk about the revolution on the equipment side. But I'll invite Dennis Schneider, Sales Director of Europe at Designwerk, to come up to stage and explain a little bit how you're changing the sector.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Richard, for the invitation for today, that I can show you a little bit what is our idea about electromobility for heavy trucks. First of all, I want to show you Designwerk, who we are. What is our company, our history? 2007, Designwerk was founded by two of our founders, a think tank for electromobility. After that, our two founders won the race in 80 days around the world, fully electric, by our own developed and designed called Zero Tracer. And their summary was electromobility works all around the planet. Yeah, and they started in 2010 to develop, first of all, mobile charging solution, especially for OEMs, BMW, Porsche, Nissan, Volkswagen, so everybody of these well-known OEMs are our customers in the meantime. In 2015, the Swiss government approached us and asked us, hey, can you guys develop for us a full electric truck, a garbage truck that really operates in the city, fully electric? And we said yes. At this point, we found a partner, Volvo Trucks. Together with them, we developed the first trucks. In 2017, there was a handover of the first 4 full electric trucks. These trucks are still operating in Switzerland. Yeah, and at this point, this was for us the game changer. We started serial production in Switzerland for, this time we called it Futuricum trucks. Yeah, 2020, we joined a partnership with Found Solar, the Kirchhoff Group. That's one of the biggest producer of superstructures for garbage trucks here in Europe. And we decided with them that they distribute our trucks all across in Europe for these refuse collection vehicles. 2021, this was, I think, one of the most important years in our short history of the company. We had the handover of the first full electric concrete mixer. To be honest, this is one of the biggest challenges in a heavy truck business. If you want to support this drum on the back of the truck, completely fully electric. Yeah, and also in 2021, we produced, we call it the Super Bomber or the Diesel Killer, the first truck with a battery capacity of 900 kilowatt hours and an approximate range of 500 kilometers, fully loaded, 40 tons. 2021, we also reached a world record with the longest driven distance without recharging. We used the Continental Test Drive in Hanover, and our truck reaches 1,099 kilometers without recharging. Yeah, with all these, I can say, bullet points, our development partner, Volvo, decided to take over the majority of our shares, so that since last year, we are also part of the Volvo Group. So we are the developing brain behind heavy truck mobility. Where are we coming from? For sure, these refuse and garbage trucks, this is our heartbeat. This is where we come from, our historic line up right now. But also special vehicles. So we have currently combinations, full electric with cranes, with hook lifts, whatever. Construction equipment, also a very, very important field for us in the moment. And currently we're also closing the gap for distribution and plant logistics, because the classic OEMs have nothing in their hands at the moment. They're coming up now in the market, step by step, quite slow, but our product is ready. We don't talk about prototypes or test trucks. We have more than 100 trucks in daily operation by our customers. But today we want to talk about something different. What is possible today for how much you explained quite well what you do on the yard, but from the yard, the ready passenger cars has to come to the dealer or to the end customer. Together with Casper, we developed car porters. A few, for example, here with battery capacities of 340 or 450 kilowatt hours, with an approximate range of 170 and 225 kilometers, fully loaded. Fast charging, we are also currently the only manufacturer who is able to fast charge with 350 kilowatts. So that means you can recharge such a truck with 450 kilowatt hour battery in less than 1 hour, because we are the only one who is able to recharge linear our batteries. If you drive by yourself, for example, in Tesla or whatever, and you start to recharge, you realize quite fast, yeah, you have the charging curve in the beginning up on the highest level, and then it drops quite fast. We are able to recharge linear 350 kilowatts from 0 to 100. Loading examples with loading factor 8. So we tested out, okay, with a Volkswagen, with a BMW, with all current manufacturers, is it working in total length, total height of the truck? Yeah, it's working. And you will see these trucks in autumn 2022 operating here in Germany on the streets. Also other solutions, loading factor 6 for the SUVs, for example, with a bit more range because the total weight is a bit less than with loading factor 8, but it's also working. You will also see this current solution here on the picture operating in autumn 2022. Long haul. I think most interesting point here in the moment for many subcontractors, or especially from the OEMs and transport companies, is our truck with 900 kilowatt hours and 500 kilometer range. Currently only possible outside the European Union because of the total weight and the total length. The truck is a little bit longer than a normal one, because you see we have also put some batteries behind the cab, not only on the chassis, so that we can reach these 900 kilowatt hour battery capacity. But this truck is already operating in Switzerland, and it's transporting every day Teslas, BMW, Polestar, all electric vehicles to the end dealer or to the end customer in Switzerland. So this is a real operation. This is no fantasy. This is no prototype. This is what the real world currently is operating outside. Yeah, the future is now and a challenge as well. The Clean Vehicle Directive of the European Union stipulates that in 2013, 285,000 heavy trucks with alternative drives must be registered in Germany alone. It's a huge challenge for us as a manufacturer to ramp up our production volume also for our other OEMs. So the Green Deal is approaching, and more and more companies are realizing this in a moment. Yeah, after Germany, more and more EU countries are starting to introduce specific subsidies. To be honest, a full electric truck you see like this carport that costs more than 800,000 euros. And it doesn't make sense to buy such a truck because you can calculate this in your business. So, for example, Germany starts a subsidy up to pay 80% of the difference between a diesel and a full electric truck. So this makes the project fly. And more and more countries are upcoming. In a moment, it's also Switzerland. I think in the next few months, also France and the UK will start with quite similar programs to push this electric business. Our biggest problem, our biggest challenge in the moment in the market is not the truck. The trucks are ready, the technology is working, the infrastructure. Without possibilities to recharge your truck, fast recharging, better hypercharging or megawatt charging, it doesn't work in Europe. In the moment when I have a test truck outside with my customers and we try to recharge in a public area with, for example, a Unity or a charging pole, I block at the same time with the truck 5 charging poles. So to be honest, all these drivers of Tesla, etc., are really happy when I block all these charging poles. So this is a really, really big challenge to push this topic here, especially here in Europe, to create as fast as possible a network that is really working until 2025. What's next to come? A little bit more. The future of mobile charging. Designwerk, what I told at the beginning, we are also developing mobile charging solutions. From Q3, we will get in test operation the first worldwide Megawatt charger, a mobile one. So it's the biggest mobile charger in the world. Charging power from 350 kilowatts up to 2.4 megawatts. So that means that we are also able to recharge our trucks next year up to 2.4 megawatts. That means with 900 kilowatt hour battery, I recharge a truck in less 20 minutes. New charging plug generation together with Phoenix Contact, we developed this MCS standard that will be also available in the future for Tesla semi-trucks. In this megawatt charger, we have a battery storage up to 1.8 megawatts. And yeah, it works as a real mobile charging solution. You can connect it, for example, to a windmill, to a solar energy factory, whatever, and you can transport it. So it's a normal 20 feet sea container, and you can put it on a, for example, swap body truck, hook lift, and transport it on a special yard where you need to recharge your trucks at this moment, for example. It will be available from Q1 2023 for a customer. We already sold 5 of these units in a moment. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dennis. And even speaking with some colleagues and the audience over the last couple of days about decarbonisation of the fleet, electrification of the equipment, many didn't think that this was a reality now. So this is a really exciting game changer. And again, we'll delve into this. So, but I want to move on to our next innovator, our next game changer. So I'd like to welcome Ruud Vossebeld, Director of Business Development at Inform. So many of you will know Inform as the logistics optimizer. What's really interesting in the game changer is the application to the new technologies coming. So Ruud, please take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much, Richard. Yeah, good morning, all of you. I hope you had a nice evening. Nice to see that you all came out of your beds to see the innovators of today. I'm impressed with the innovators I've seen this morning. And it's great that I think in the next 10 years, a lot of possibilities are offered to vehicle logistics. I work already for more than 25 years in areas of vehicle logistics. And a long time, it has been more, a very stable situation, not too much change. It looks like now it's time that everyone needs to change. And I think we need a lot of good ideas how these changes can be made. So we as Inform, we are also in that area that we can help companies to make some changes, to make some improvements. And we do that more from a software side. But we also see a lot of activities going on in the vehicle logistic market, where we also need to adapt with our software, with the optimization possibilities. One of the areas is, for example, electric vehicles. We help companies these days also to tell at which moment cars need to go to be charged, also when a car needs to leave a charging point again, so that such operation at the charging points can be as efficient as possible. Other areas that we have learned in the last years is that technologies like drones also can be helpful in yards. We have already seen cases that car makers are testing drones to find out if cars are damaged or have bird droppings. And that way they can quicker detect where the damages or the bird droppings are and take quicker action, and therefore make sure they are not having all the cost consequences later on. When it's too late that they discover all these bird droppings have created damage on cars. Another area where we see a lot is happening, and a few pilots are going on in Europe already, is robots in the terminals. When you see how many people are needed to transport the cars, and we saw it in the movie from Seoul Robotics at Tesla. You think, okay, autonomous cars, or at least Tesla is saying autonomous cars, but still they do it with people. And it looks like there is, maybe an intermediate period that the cars are not driving really itself. And we noticed that also robots are helping now cars to move in the yards. And it's an interesting time to see how well that will develop. And we are happy that we can be partner of such a robot in the terminal. And we help them with the yard management and the optimization of the yard. To tell the robots what's the best place where a car should go, and how can you minimize the kilometers that you need to make, even when that need to be done with robots. When there are still people in the yard, then mobile devices help a lot. In the past, the people working in the yard walked around with a list what to do for the next whole of a day or the next day. And these days, every time that someone needs to pick up a car in the yard, he gets a signal on his mobile. There is an app, and he can see this is the next car I need to pick. I need to drive the car to the next position. And then he gets the next message from his mobile app, which car to pick and drive around again. And we have seen that that's a way of real-time planning and optimization in the yard can help some companies to double the productivity. We have one customer in Ireland. They had in the past 40 moves per day per driver in the yard, and they could increase it to 80 moves per day per driver, just because of this real-time planning and optimization and communication with a mobile app. Other big developments happening in the next 10 years. We talked already about the EU Green Deal. So yesterday also, companies like Volkswagen, they say, okay, when everything gets electric with the cars and has no emission of CO2 anymore, why should then transport still have emission? So we all need to work as quick as possible to get also the emissions in the transport to CO2 zero. Now, for now, what we see is there are basically two options that people think about: electric trucks, hydrogen trucks. In the Netherlands, for example, you have a factory from Hyzen, and they produce hydrogen trucks. So it's possible already, but I also hear it's still some time to go before this really can be offered to the car transport market. But it's great to see that Dennis could show an electric truck where you really can put the cars on the back and basically offer a solution to the market, which is possible today and can be implemented in the next 5 to 10 years. At the same time, we see that charging takes a while. It takes a while for a car, but for a truck it will even take longer. And we know from the transport market that waiting costs money. So we should minimize the waiting for trucks, but also for cars. And what we see is that there is more and more interest to think about reserving the charging moments of the day. That you know when you go on with the truck and are arriving at 5 o'clock somewhere, that you already have reserved your space to do the charging and not waiting 1 hour because another truck is in front of you. So we expect that reservation of charging points becomes one of the necessary tools in the future as well. Beside that, we work already with 50 car factories where we ask the transporters to book time slots, to book a reservation, to go with the truck into a car factory. And we have seen that that helped the companies to reduce waiting times or process times from 2 hours back to 1 hour. So they can save 1 hour just because all the activities are more spread over the day. And also here again, we can work with apps for the drivers so that they can fully digital pass the gate, don't need to exchange paper at the gate. And we see that digitalization, optimization becomes very basic element in most of the factories, but also in most of the yards. Then we see developments in delivery. What we have seen in the last 20 years is that deliveries most of the time went into dealers. So you can go with a full truck to a dealer, drop the cars there, and then the customer picks up the car at the dealer. But more and more car makers, they expect that the customers order cars via internet. And they even don't think about dealers anymore. So what will happen is that deliveries probably need to happen more to the house of the customer. So we have seen already that at least one of our customers is having a one-car truck to bring a car to the end customer. We also have learned that there are initiatives going on, and we have heard about that in Hamburg, a company like Vey, that they have a car available which can act like a sort of taxi, but it will arrive driverless, and then you can step in, take over the steer yourself, and drive further to the next position. And then you leave the car there again, and then this car again can go driverless to the next point. The driverless is not autonomous, but it's teledriving. So someone else, maybe at home, can manage the car from point A to point B and takes over the steering at the moment that the car is empty. So things are changing, and who knows that that's the future as well, how some of our new cars are delivered to your house. For now, we see that how we can help car transporters, for example, is to help them with route optimization, route and load optimization. Because the challenge is always how can you work with as little as possible trucks to bring as many as possible cars. And there we see that some customers from us, by doing it fully automated and optimized, they have a possibility of saving 5 to 10% on their total cost in, let's say, fuel cost and the usage of trucks. Beside that, we see that, also this full process becomes digital between, let's say, port and dealer. Customers use electronic proof delivery, and also in Europe, ECMR becomes a hot topic. Since also Germany this year has said, okay, ECMR is allowed. Basically, most of the European countries are now ready to apply ECMR. So it's now, I think, time that one of the car makers will say, okay, I'd like to roll that out for all Europe. And we don't need to have paper information anymore in the truck because we can do it fully digital. Just a summary for a few people who maybe don't know about Inform yet. We are a company with more than 800 people. We have our headquarters in Aachen in Germany, but also offices in Atlanta and Sydney. We work in the meantime with more than 50 compounds in the world, including ICO in Zeebrugge, who has 100,000 parking spaces and are processing more than 2 million cars a year. And we help these companies to automate and fully optimize their operations in the yard. Yeah, I'm looking forward for having further discussion with you, Richard, and the innovators. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruud. And I'd like to welcome all our speakers to join us on stage. So please do come take a seat. And I'll open it up to the audience as well. I'm sure you have plenty of questions, but I have plenty of my own too. So please, gentlemen, take a seat. Thank you again for those fascinating insights. My opening comments in this session were that perhaps a bit tongue-in-cheek, vehicle logistics maybe stuck a little bit behind the times. Clearly, the technology, the innovation is there. But I'm interested to understand from your perspectives, the conversations that you're having. Is there a realization, and how are those conversations shifting when you're talking to the market, when you're talking to your customers? I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely an appetite for implementing changes, and it's all about understanding the customer's pain points. And so, in the particular technology that we've developed, we've been able to map it to a very clear business case, very clear challenges that every OEM, every logistics center has. And so, when we've made that connection clear and we're able to show, the clear savings, the clear potential, a lot of people are excited, and I think that's the key is doing that end-to-end connection of tying the technology to the business case and then how it can be applied.
Fantastic.
Yeah, for us, especially in case of electromobility, it's quite interesting. You can say 50% of our customers have a really major roadmap in the meantime. Say, okay, we have to reduce CO2 footprint. We have to be more sustainable, produce more sustainability in our companies. And then we have the other 50% who completely ignore this business because they don't believe in, for example, in electromobility. They say, yo, that's not possible. You can only drive 100 kilometers with an electric truck. This is a really big challenge for us because we have to explain them, for example, the Clean Vehicle Directive or the Green Deal from the European Union. Say, hey guys, this is not for fun. This is mandatory law in the meantime in all member states of the European Union. You have to do something. You have to change your fleet. You have to reduce your carbon footprint. And this is the biggest challenge in the moment. So we have to put different parties together. On one side, our customers, all OEMs on the other side, and that's really important, also the governments from all these different countries, because everybody has a complete different opinion and a complete different approach in case of change of their fleets, for example. So this is a really, really major, big thing for us in the moment. Yeah, most of them want to change something, but they have no idea how to do it.
Yeah, interesting. And Ruud, from your perspective, this digital journey that many are in, perhaps how has the conversation changed from a nice to have to becoming essentially mandatory to be efficient and the most optimal operations out there?
Yeah, I think what we see is that the car makers, they feel that they need really to move on to becoming a sort of Amazon in having much quicker visibility, availability of the cars. And they know their internal systems are still organized, very isolated from each other. So they really need to look to new platforms to make it work. At the same time, they push very hard their logistics service providers because they expect also information from them to speed up that process and to have that visibility. And they expect, competitiveness. So they expect, okay, why are you still using 10 people in your yard while your competitor can do it with 5 people? Yeah, so, and I think that keeps the snowball rolling faster and faster in digitalization and optimization.
Great. And in this industry, timely ROI has often proved a challenge for logistics teams, being able to invest and explore new opportunities, new innovations to support their strategies, their operations. At times, ROI, the requirements have been, within a year, 6 months. Is that starting to change? Is there a realization that maybe longer ROIs are acceptable, and how does that look now, this picture?
I'll share a few thoughts. Yeah, so I think it all comes down to, at the end of the day, companies have to decide if they want to be a leader or a follower, right? And if they want to lead with innovation and be unique and help drive that change, I think the potential is there. I think a lot of the technology is there, whether it be electric or autonomous movement or AI or whatever the case is. And so yeah, I think naturally people fall into those clusters of whether they're leaders and followers, and the ROI sometimes is a secondary concern in my view.
Yeah, and Dennis, with you in terms of equipment providers, major investment is required. This is long-term strategies, so ROI is certainly a different perspective. How are you having those conversations?
For them, it's also a long-term plan, because they invest in such a truck. What I told you in my presentation is a high impact in their business, because we're talking about an investment around about 800,000 euros plus an infrastructure on the local infrastructure to recharge your truck. So there's it's a huge investment of sometimes of millions of euros. So to say, okay, in 1 year the invest is done, I think this is a dream. And we have to think about electromobility, especially in the heavy truck business, is more or less 5 years old. Diesel trucks operating since the last 100 years around. So infrastructure, everything is done. So we are starting in a moment, and to think about, we have to get back our ROI within the next 6 or 12 months. No, I think this won't work. And most of our customers are realizing this, and it's quite the same what Hamid said. Most of them getting more and more the innovator, not the follower. So from these 15% of customers who have currently no idea or no plan, the mind is changing more or less, and see, okay, the other 50%, and this is also the major companies, for example, our car manufacturers, OEMs, what you're saying, are pushing their supply chains, say, hey guys, we have to change. What can we do? So at the end of the day, I think money will be not the big issue, because the local governments has to push this, because their climate targets are in really big danger in the moment. So for Germany, 2022 and 2023, we will not reach our climate targets. So in Berlin, our Chancellor, Mr. Scholz, and our other ministers will getting more or less in panic in the next months or next years, because they will have big trouble with the European Union. So they have to invest and to push these topics, definitely.
Yeah, and that's something, that need and that openness to invest is something that came up yesterday in our discussions around decarbonisation of the supply chain as well. So there is clearly a need for the private sector, but also the public sector to support on that. Ruud, I want to come to you in terms of this adoption of digital tools. Data really kind of lies at the heart. And you say, understand how Inform are working with different types of technologies, different types of providers to optimize their solutions. Does the sector have the framework yet and the capability and the mindset for data sharing, for more partners to get engaged and to create this connected ecosystem? Or is there still some work to do there?
I think still some work to do. I know there are initiatives where they talk about blockchains and try to bring a number of parties together. Also, ODET has created, or ECG has created a document with vehicle logistic interfaces. And it helps, I think, to to get more agreement, more standards, how to work together. Let me drink a bit.
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, absolutely. So, Dennis, I want to come to you in terms of this adoption rate, and Ruud, we can come back to you in a moment when you've cleared your throat. But adoption rate, what are you seeing in terms of? You mentioned volumes that have to be met in Germany, but what are you seeing kind of across Europe, and with different regulations from country to country, different levels of government support and incentivization. What do you see in terms of total kind of uptake and the balance of the fleets moving towards e-car carriers?
So the e-car carriers will come. So this, I will say, this is done more or less. The biggest challenge is definitely the different regulations all across Europe. We are talking about a common union in Europe. So that's the next dream we have to cancel, because every country is doing his own job, more or less. He has his own subsidies, his own tax regulations, has his own regulations for total weight, total length of the truck. So to operating cross-border, for example, currently with an e-transporter or e-car porter is more or less not possible. You can operate, for example, only in Germany, only in Switzerland. That doesn't help us in the moment quite well. So we have to find here a common solution all across Europe that this electromobility really works. This is the biggest challenge in the moment, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And Hamid, I'll come to you. Clearly there's numerous applications for your technology. I know you're working with the vehicle at plant logistics right now. Where do you see your technology playing a role kind of beyond this, specific application right now?
Yeah, so I think, as you noted, the potential is tremendous. If you think about it, the last time you returned a car at a rental car facility, for example, right? You drive up and there's a manual driver that has to come, get the car, take it to a car wash, clean the car, drive it around, fill it with gas, and all of those steps are manual. And so really anywhere where there's a dense cluster of vehicles that need to be moved around within a private compound, I think is a perfect application for the technology. Now, the reason we've started with vehicle logistics, specifically OEM plants and logistics centers, is we do need to get the buy-in from the OEM to effectively unlock the keys to allow us to send those remote signals to control the car wirelessly. And so for that reason, it makes sense to start at the plants, to start at the vehicle distribution centers, get the buy-in from the OEM, and then eventually we can roll out to other applications, airports, valet parking, hotel, whatever the case may be. So I think it's a long-term potential. I think in 10 years' time, you drive up to any facility, a mall, a restaurant, a movie theater, you'll let your car park by itself. And that may be partially by sensors on the vehicle, but I think there will definitely, in dense spaces where there's a lot of vehicles, there will always be a need for a central authority to coordinate traffic flow. And I think that's where our system plays a key.
Exciting times. And Ruud, welcome back into the room. So good to see you're okay. We touched upon ride sharing and kind of the work you're doing, working with some new players there, dealing with the data. What can the traditional logistics players and the traditional logistics models kind of learn from this? These new sort of subscription models and these new vehicle logistics requirements that are coming through, and how are they going to change, say, some of the traditional players' movements and applications?
Right. Yeah. An interesting example, what we do with a new startup in Hamburg. It's called Moya. And this group, they have a sort of Uber concept. They have taxis going around. And they have difficulties in finding, let's say, taxi drivers to run it. But what we offer with an app to, let's say, people at home who want to work very flexible. They want to work in the morning, but then they want to be home for the kids, and then they can work in the evening again. So they have the flexibility to say at what times of the day and the week they can work. And in that way, they can earn some extra money. And in that way, they can create a pool with people who are really available to do the work. And I think looking to the current transport problem, in finding drivers, for example, it could be helpful as well to offer the drivers much more possibility that they can also ask for the holidays at the moment that they want. that they get that feeling that they have control over their own life, and not that's only pushed into, let's say, the driver world to follow exactly what their boss is expecting from them. There need to be more a balance. This morning I heard from someone in the audience, we have a shortage of 500,000 drivers at the moment in Europe. Yeah, so we need to find creative solutions, I think, to solve that sort of problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd certainly like a bit more control in my life, so I'm sure we all would. So I have taken a bit of a liberty, and we've run slightly over. There's so much to unpack with these kind of technologies, but I want to just kind of sum up now, and maybe a kind of a final question. We've discussed some extraordinary applications, some innovations, going to change the sector and revolutionize it. What can we expect? I'm being greedy, but what can we expect next? And what can we look forward to in the next couple of years, be it adaptations of your own technologies or what the sector can provide?
Well, predicting the future is always a difficult challenge. But yeah, I think we were talking a little bit about this earlier. I think some of the building blocks for some of the major changes are here now. And I think the key will be actually executing and implementing those changes. To a large extent, I think that's the exciting part. Is now that the technology here is around electric, around autonomous vehicles. These next few years of implementing and delivering what people have been promised, I think, will be really key and will be exciting.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree to what Hamid said. We will see in the next 3-4 years really big changes, especially in the supply chains and also on the roads outside. I think electromobility for heavy trucks will reach so fast the markets the year. Volumes will definitely ramp up massively, and there has to be a change in the mind of the people. So if you have this change in the mind, then you have to change on the road or on the streets outside there. And then there will also the invests and say, okay, we have to do something. And how to spoil here something, we will have something more in the pocket what I show you today. So next year will be also interesting what we are showing outside into the world, especially in electromobility for heavy trucks. So Megawatt battery is no future, it's real. So we're talking about higher ranges for trucks in the next 2 or 3 years. So it will be interesting.
Yeah, fantastic. And Ruud, pressure on you now. Just sum up from for our audience. The key takeaways and the key message in terms of innovation in finished vehicle logistics right now.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm happy that we are now in this time period, 2020 to 2030, because this is the time that a lot of changes need to happen. A lot of innovation is needed. It's great to see that there are many tools and products now available that really can be implemented. So it's time for the action to start implementing software tools, but also hardware tools. I also see that car makers are now really working hard on this digitalization optimization process internally. And I think the next step will be, how can they also then help each other with collaboration and sharing, to get even further also in the CO2 reduction. Think about train lanes that can be shared. I still believe that more cars can go on the train when volumes are higher, but that's what you can do by combining volumes from one car maker with another. And I think in the US or Canada they do it already, co-loading. But we still need to learn that trick in Europe as well. And see how we then can make big steps also in the CO2 reduction in transport.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to a warm round of applause for our 3 innovators, our panelists. So, thank you. And a perfect way to end, a call to action there. The technology, the innovation is there. It's now time to implement and collaborate and make sure that we utilize it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again, and stick around. We're going to head straight into our next panel, or in our next session. So I'll hand over to my colleague.